International Affairs for the United States, here assisting Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm. It is my great honor to call to order this opening plenary of the 13th APEC Energy Ministers meeting, the first meeting of its kind for the last 8 years. A momentous occasion indeed, concerning what we believe is one of the most important regions of the world and certainly the most important for the future of energy. Following Secretary Granholm's welcome remarks, which will come next, we will have several invited speakers from the APEC Secretariat, the APEC Business Advisory Council, and our partners throughout. Following the speakers, we will ask the members of the press to leave the room, please, before moving on to the adoption of the agenda for this Energy Ministers meeting and interventions by each economy. And now, I'm very pleased to introduce the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, who will deliver opening remarks.
Great. Thanks so much, Andrew, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the United States and the U.S. Department of Energy, I'm honored to be able to welcome you all to Seattle and to the 13th APEC Energy Ministers meeting. In many ways, the APEC region has come to define the world energy economy. Just 21 members, but accounting for 56% of world energy demand, 58% of world energy supply, and 68% of electricity generated. We've shared in the prosperity that comes with energy production and consumption, but we also share responsibility. And while we'll certainly discuss energy security and management of resources and reduction of energy poverty, we also have to discuss the climate consequences of our energy choices. Over 70% of all greenhouse gas emissions driving climate change, whether it's carbon dioxide or methane, nitrous oxide, HFCs, others, all come from the energy sector, including electricity and heat and transportation. These are well-known facts, they're beyond doubt. But really, to put it another way, there is no rational discussion of our energy future which is not also about climate change. And there's no serious discussion about climate change which is not also about energy. Energy and climate are two sides of the same coin. Coins, by the way, that added together make up a $23 trillion market economy by 2030. As energy ministers, we will not only help pave a path out of climate hazards, but also toward the opportunities at the heart of clean energy transitions. And I have no doubt that we can. Our last energy ministerial may have been 8 years ago. Probably more of us were not here than were here. Except for the staff and people who have been shepherding this along the way. But the progress that we've made since that time has been significant. We've increased our collective renewable capacity by more than 50%. The Energy Working Group has undertaken 140 new projects on topics from energy storage to clean energy purchasing to wind and solar. We've updated the Energy Security Initiative to reflect the transition to modern energy systems, accounting for renewables and EVs and technologies addressing fossil fuel emissions. And now we need to up our ambition, and we need to hone in on our top priorities. This week, we're proposing new energy goals for APEC's power sector decarbonization and methane emissions. These are absolutely vital to keeping global warming within 1.5 degrees. And per this year's APEC theme, these goals are also vital to creating a resilient and sustainable future for all. We'll also propose a new Just Energy Transition Initiative, which I understand there's good progress on among our teams, to ensure that our economies lift up workers and communities as our energy sectors evolve. You can't just have an energy transition, it must also be just. So that's the only way to really be true to the Putrajaya Vision 2040, an open, dynamic, resilient, and peaceful Asia-Pacific community for the prosperity of all our people and future generations. The bottom line is this: there is no option but to work together. As we speak, I know our teams are working hard on closing our collective ministerial statement. I know there are different views in the room. I respect that. But I also know and believe that consensus is within reach. And just think about the message that we can send to the rest of the world, that our common humanity can bring widely diverse economies from across the ocean together in common purpose, that our greatest challenges can be our best opportunities, and that none of us is alone in this fight to save the planet. With that, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Rebecca Santamaria, who is the Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat.
Thank you, Secretary Jennifer Granholm, Chair of the APEC Energy Ministers Meeting, Ministers, Heads of Delegation, Chair of the Energy Working Group, Ms. Ari Ben Aisha. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity to address this meeting. This is indeed a significant meeting for a couple of reasons, and it has been explained earlier. The APEC Energy Ministers meeting is being convened for the first time in 8 years. For this, I would like to express my appreciation to the United States for hosting this important event in beautiful Seattle. And second, this meeting is timely as we work with the U.S. to advance work on a just energy transition, moving to a low-carbon APEC while promoting equity and inclusivity. APEC's Energy Working Group was launched in 1990 and has sought to maximize the energy sector's contribution to the economic and social well-being of our people in APEC, while mitigating the environmental effects of energy supply and use. This goal remains unchanged and is as relevant as ever today. Ministers, Excellencies, capacity building and technical cooperation is a key aspect of our work in APEC. In this context, I'm happy to report that the Energy Working Group has one of the highest numbers of projects implemented in APEC. And thank you to Ari and her team for the work that they've been doing. These projects cover a range of topics from policy dialogues, workshops, and peer review of low-carbon energy policies. These capacity building and technical cooperation initiatives matter as they support economies in transitioning to greener and more sustainable economic growth. An example of the significant work undertaken by the EWG is the policy workshop in Detroit in May, which focused on the concept of just energy transition, as you just mentioned, with the aim of promoting fairness and social inclusion while advancing energy transition. This body is best positioned to facilitate work and initiatives in the face of rising energy prices, disruptions in the energy supply chain, and the pressing issue of climate change. These are challenges that not one economy can address by itself. Herein is the role of APEC and specifically this body. So thank you again for this opportunity, and as the APEC Secretary, we look forward to collaborating and supporting this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. We now turn to the U.S. host year presentation represented by Matt Murray, the U.S. Senior Official for APEC from the U.S. Department of State.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of our entire U.S. APEC team, we'd like to welcome you all to Seattle. Thank you for providing us this opportunity to discuss the United States host year priorities. We're very excited to be hosting APEC in 2023, and especially to be back in the state of Washington, where we hosted the inaugural APEC Leaders Meeting in 1993. As the Chair stated previously, our U.S. APEC 2023 theme is creating a resilient and sustainable future for all. And our host year specifically focuses on 3 overarching policy priorities: interconnected, innovative, and inclusive. The cross-cutting concepts of building resilience, strengthening environmental sustainability, and advancing inclusive policies are woven across our priorities and our work. Our first policy priority for our U.S. host year is interconnected, building a resilient and interconnected region that advances broad-based economic prosperity. Creating new connections and strengthening existing ties across the APEC region is at the heart of sustained economic recovery and will be critical for future growth and prosperity. We recognize the importance of enhancing regional interconnectivity to increase access to clean energy, and we would like to highlight the crucial need for international collaboration to protect critical energy infrastructure and enhance its resilience to climate change, natural disasters, and other threats. So we're very excited that so many important voices in the APEC community have gathered today for this energy ministerial meeting, and as we've heard, the first one since 2015 to advance this work. Our second priority is innovative, enabling an innovative environment for a sustainable future. We are thrilled that APEC economies are on track to meet their current goals on renewable energy and energy intensity, but we must push further to promote ambitious clean energy policies and technologies, climate adaptation and resiliency, and disaster preparedness response while safeguarding vulnerable populations most impacted by climate change. To do so, we should endorse updated and ambitious clean energy and sustainability targets, and we look forward to further advancing this agenda through robust discussions at EMM. Our third priority is inclusive, affirming an equitable and inclusive future for all. To achieve sustained economic growth, we must ensure that all segments of our societies are able to fully participate in and benefit from an increasingly connected and globalized economy. We would like to acknowledge the important and extensive work the Energy Working Group has put into realizing this priority by seeking APEC support to advance work on a just energy transition initiative. As APEC economies continue to work together to accelerate clean energy transitions, we need to promote new and expanded work streams that will focus on supporting our workers and communities in a sustainable, equitable, and inclusive way. In 2023, the United States has introduced 3 implementation agendas for our 2023 host year, which address various challenges in a cross-cutting manner. First, through the Manoa Agenda for Sustainable and Inclusive Economies, the United States is committed to working with other APEC economies in 2023 to build on APEC's existing commitments and work streams identified in the Bangkok Goals on Biocircular Green Economy, as well as to consider new aspirational opportunities to further APEC's sustainability objectives. Second, the Digital Pacific Agenda will use APEC to support the responsible design, development, and deployment of emerging digital technologies, aim to secure digital access for consumers and businesses, work with the private sector to bring underserved individuals and small businesses into the digital economy, and help shape the rules, norms, and standards that govern the digital economy. And third, the Bay Area Agenda on Resilient and Inclusive Growth aims to ensure that APEC 2023 strengthens economic ties throughout the region and increases supply chain resilience while continuing to integrate the cross-cutting concept of inclusion. Importantly, for all of you as energy ministers, you will note that your work is reflected across each of these 3 areas. We look forward to continuing these discussions this year and to welcoming economies to San Francisco from November 11th to 17 for APEC Economic Leaders Week, and we will provide a detailed schedule of events soon after we wrap up here in Seattle. So thank you again for providing us the opportunity to provide an overview of our host year priorities. We welcome your feedback or suggestions, and we hope you have an enjoyable stay here in Seattle, and our U.S. team looks forward to continuing to work with each of you and your delegations. With that, I would turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt. We'll now hear from Ginger Liu, representing the APEC Business Advisory Council.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the APEC Business Advisory Council, it is my pleasure to convey our key recommendations to APEC energy ministers. We recognize the critical role that energy plays in driving our economy's growth, enhancing sustainable development, and ensuring the well-being of our societies. We commend the efforts of APEC economies in advancing regional dialogue and cooperation on energy-related matters. It is crucial that governments and businesses work collaboratively to address issues such as energy security, sustainability, affordability, and accessibility. To that end, we put forward the following recommendations. First, to support an ambitious, realistic, sustainable, and just energy transition consistent with the APEC's climate leadership principles, APEC economies should reduce carbon emissions substantially and quickly based on economies' nationally determined contributions. Develop clear and credible transition roadmaps for high-emitting and hard-to-abate sectors. Strengthen the public-private collaboration and the sharing of low-carbon technology to enable APEC economies, particularly developing economies and MSMEs, to pursue a diverse range of transition pathways. To support this, we urge greater collaboration, public-private partnerships between multilateral financial institutions, commercial financial institutions, private capital, and foundations to develop blended financing products that can invest in energy transition projects that reduce carbon emissions and ensure equitable and affordable access for all. Finally, to prioritize to enhance reliable energy access, particularly in remote and underserved areas, to empower communities to benefit fully from a just and realistic energy transition. Second, we encourage APEC economies to invest in the development of physical and digital energy infrastructure, including smart grids, energy storage, and management systems, efficient transmission networks, and use of data analytics. Creating an enabling environment for private sector investments is essential to ensure adequate financing for infrastructure projects as identified in APEC's Trade and Investment in Renewable Energy and Low Carbon Emission Technologies Roadmap. Lastly, with the increasing frequency of natural disasters and other challenges, APEC stresses the need for APEC economies to develop contingency plans, promote regional cooperation, and share best practices to mitigate energy supply disruptions and market volatility during these crises. I look forward to fruitful discussions over the next few days and the continued partnership between APEC economies and APEC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And our final welcome speaker will come from Ari Ben-Isa, who is the Energy Working Group lead shepherd. While we have not met as ministers for 8 years, they have been extremely hard at work and have produced quite a lot, and I'm very proud to say Ari is also my dear colleague at the U.S. Department of Energy. Ari.
Thank you, Chair. It is an honor for me to report to APEC Energy Ministers on the progress of the Energy Working Group. As stated in our 2019 to 2023 strategic plan, the EWG's mission is to build the capacity of APEC members to strengthen domestic and regional energy security and lower the carbon intensity of energy supply and use across the region. These are not just words in a planning document, because in the EWG, as in APEC in general, we put these words into action through a wide variety of technical and policy, information sharing, and capacity building activities. Secretary Granholm has already remarked on the impressive number of projects that the EWG has implemented since the last Energy Ministers meeting in 2015. Currently, the EWG has 44 projects in implementation, covering a wide range of topics including solar and offshore wind power, renewable energy for remote and rural communities, energy planning for urban areas, distributed generation, energy resilience, and many more. 12 more proposals are under consideration in the current project cycle. The EWG has active participation from a broad range of APEC members representing various stages of development. This is in terms of implementing projects, participating in capacity building activities, and leading the 4 EWG expert groups, the task force, and the 2 research centers. I would like to recognize those economies for their leadership and hard work to support the efforts of the EWG. EWG work is focused on the goals and direction set by energy ministers between 8 and 12 years ago, predominantly related to energy efficiency, renewable energy, and energy resiliency. This energy ministerial is very well timed to set the direction of the next 5-year strategic plan, which the EWG will begin drafting in the next coming months. As we look ahead, there is no question that the EWG must continue to make concerted efforts to support sustainable energy transitions that reduce greenhouse gas emissions while ensuring energy resilience, access, and security in the region, as APEC leaders directed last year. Here, I'd like to return to a point I made when the EWG met in Detroit in May. The work of the EWG is about much more than technical energy issues. In the Energy Working Group, we may be talking about energy storage, hydrogen infrastructure, or digital solar maps. But at the heart of all of this, what we are talking about is taking care of our people. We look forward to receiving ministers' guidance for the EWG's future direction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ori, and thank you to all of our opening speakers. At this time, I kindly request that the press depart.